Hey, welcome back to the Group Project Podcast. I've got none other than Dr. Tron Young, the 2020 Middle School Principal of the Year in Illinois from last year. So, Dr. Young, Tron, thank you so much for joining me tonight, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, with this guy, we've been talking, I don't know, about 10 minutes here. Ton of energy, ton of passion. I've been excited. I think we scheduled this the first round a month or two ago, and I think you
Yeah.
were feeling a little under the weather then, so we had to reschedule. And I've just been excited. I mentioned you before the show. I spent probably an hour last night watching your YouTube videos. Your music videos, your 5-minute Fridays, your
Friday Fives.
Friday Fives, your just a ton of passion, energy, excitement for school, for leadership. So thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
And before the show, you said now your school, which is Joseph Arthur Middle School, which it goes by Jams, I think is the quick, easy way to say
Yes.
it.
Yep.
They're in O'Fallon, which is just outside of St. Louis. You guys are actually had to move to remote learning here for a couple of weeks because of some COVID going on. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. It's hit us like a whirlwind, and so we had to pause some in-person learning. I have about half of my students who parents are them, one of the two. Now I realize in middle school, some of my parents allowed their kids to choose if they wanted to come to school or not. But I had about 50% that were doing in-person and 50% that were remote. And starting the second quarter, first quarter, everybody was remote. So we all started out first quarter just because of the high positivity rating, and then starting to get more in-person learning. And we were getting more kids to come back third quarter, which started on Tuesday, but we're now all remote. So yeah, it's been an ever learning, growing process of going. I always say this year, keep in perspective, and the best constant is change this year. Don't be afraid to change.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you seem to be in good spirits, and I appreciate it. You even mentioned, you got a kid who's not feeling very good today either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate you joining me tonight. Why don't I might just let you for a few minutes. How did you get to this point? Middle school principal of the year there in Illinois. Maybe just take a few minutes and just say, to share your teaching past, your other leadership experience. Just go ahead and share that for the audience.
Yeah, no problem. So I was born and raised in Centralia, Illinois, which is a town of about 14,000 people, home of the Centralia Orphans. That is our high school mascot, winningest team in the nation. I always talk about my hometown. I love my hometown. Went through the public school system there. My fifth grade teacher had a huge impact on my life. Mrs. Judy Truitt, she is my mother, my best friend, my teacher, my mentor, and she's the reason why I wanted to go into teaching. Now, there are several other people along the way that has made an impact on me, but she definitely is that. The reason why I'm an educator today and the reason why I do what I do is because of what I've learned from her over the years. And so she hates me talking about her, but I do every chance that I get, because what I realized in this business of education, everyone has the opportunity to make a difference in a kid's life, but not everyone will. And so she was that one that took every opportunity could to make you love teaching, to make you love coming to school. Not necessarily like it, but you loved it, right? Like, so you may not like the work, but you love going to her class, love going to school, and just built that passion in it. And so my goal was I became a teacher, and I went back to my hometown of Centralia to be a teacher. And I did that because not a lot of people that I was graduating school from, it's a small town, was going back. And I didn't want to go back. I was not going back, just like everybody else. But then during student teaching, I end up, because I was paying my way through school, my mother had moved to North Carolina with my sister. I need to find a cheap way to student teach because you got to student teach, but you didn't get paid. So
Sure,
it
yeah.
ended up working where the principal of the middle school in Centralia in the Department of Education at Eastern University agreed to allow me to go back to the school I went to teach. So I was able to stay with my aunt, and I ended up then doing that in the fall and was looking for jobs elsewhere. And my superintendent ended up hiring me in January for that next August because he knew I was looking for other places.
Yeah.
And so I taught there and I loved it. I mean, I did 7th grade math, and my goal was not to get kids to necessarily like math, but to love coming to my class. And then at the end, they'll be able to do math. You may not like math, but I need you to be able to do math, right? And so, and I would do things like create songs to allow for them to be able to do it. So we would do the integer Macarena. A positive plus a positive is a positive. A negative plus a negative is a negative. A positive plus a negative depends on the biggest integer. You know, like having fun in that class. And so as we had fun, they were learning. And it's amazing to me, like the things that I've done now, like I have students who are in college, right, from either be teaching or even adults who are like, man, send me a message. I remember, or I was thinking about, converting, and I remember knives having dull blades don't cut meat. Hilo Hector, right? Like, and I was like, oh yes, like, because it's those things. I believe your passion transfers into student excitement, which then transfers into learning, right? So passion, excitement, learning, all wrapped up into one. You got to have it, especially in this day and age in teaching. So I did that, and I was a teacher union president and chief negotiator for a contract. As I was going in and working with my principal and superintendent, and my superintendent came to me and asked me to be a principal, and I didn't want to be. I got my degree because SIUE, Southern University of Edwardsville, had an evenings program at my school. So I was like, well, I might as well get it. I'll move over on the pay scale. And then I started doing things in leadership, and my superintendent talked to me, and it became a point where a lot of my focus was going towards that, like, overall leadership and not so much in my classroom. And I felt like I was doing my students a disservice. So I had to make a decision, either continue to make a bigger impact on education, schooling students that, or stay and worry about my 4 walls, right? So as a teacher, you can really worry about your 4 walls and nothing else. But as a principal, I realized everyone's 4 walls is your 4 walls in your building. And so that's how I became a principal, with some coaxing and some suggestions from my superintendent. Went to an elementary building for 1 year. God bless elementary teachers. God bless elementary
yes.
principals. It was a learning experience because my whole career was middle school before that. And man, you talk about procedures for everything. Elementary buildings have a procedure for procedure, right? And so, but it helped me. It helped me as a leader because it really made me understand that progression, right? And part of me wish I did a little bit of high school as well to understand that progression. Like, I get it, but understand it completely. But it really helped. And then I went back. So I did 1 year's elementary building. And then I went back to the middle school I taught at and became a principal there. And I was a principal, actually, of teachers that were my teacher when I went to school there.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about a tricky leadership, right? Like getting buy-in and getting, and I think what helped is being a passionate, driven teacher. They understood that passion and that drive was going to come with my leadership as well. And so it was nice. Like, I had lots of support from my staff, and they were back behind me. And then found the love of my life, and she was over close to St. Louis as a nurse. So love draws you at different places. And so as much as I love staying in my hometown, I had an opportunity of shifting over here to O'Fallon, Illinois, to Joseph Arthur Middle School. And I am glad. Like, I love my hometown, but man, I absolutely love my school, and the kids that I have now, like, they're just rearing to go for success. So it's awesome. So that's kind of my progression there.
Okay. Gosh, there's so much to unpack there. You got the Macarena going. We've got the long distance relationship. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff there, man. So, so that's really cool. So, take us back. You got so much energy, just captivating to listen to. Take us back to that first year of teaching. What was the first year? I guess it had been Mr. Young at the time. What was
Right.
Mr. Young, first year teacher? What were some of the things, some of the strengths that you just had right off the bat? And maybe what were some of those things, those growing pains, those challenges that you had?
Man, so man, that first year teaching, you try to put it behind you, but then especially as a principal, as you're working with new teachers, you just remember. And I tell you, it was that big dream of, I believe I could save every kid, and I believe that I can get every kid to do math. And I just knew that like it was going to be great. Like everything was great. Kids are going to want to do the work for me. Everyone's going to like it, like all this. And then the realization of like, no, this is hard work, right? Like you can't take off of, so where previously I was operating off of Mrs. Truitt's, what people wanted to do for Mrs. Truitt. And as I was working in her class, they would do it for me. And then as my student teacher, right? It wasn't my classroom, it was that teacher's classroom. So they weren't doing the work for me, they were doing it because of the teacher they had, right? And so I had to realize how to develop relationships with kids. Like I thought I knew, but going in that classroom and having it as your own rules, your own procedures, having to create that, right? And create that connection, because it was a challenge. Like those first couple of years, like I had some knockdown dragouts. Like I had some kids that were like, you ain't gonna make me do it. I ain't gonna do it. Like storming out the classroom. Like, okay, what do you do with this, right? Like they don't teach you classroom management in school. Like they talk about it, but no one can prepare you for when a kid looks in your face and says, I'm not gonna do this. When a kid says, oh yeah, well, you're worried about that, but last night, this is what I saw at home. Right? So one of those biggest hurdles is like, I think the biggest challenge was realizing that you can't save them all, but you still have to try. Right? Like that, that's the hardest, that was the hardest realization for me, because as a fresh teacher, like you got in it for the business of kids, right? So to think that you can't help a kid, like you can do everything that you can do, but then it's still just not enough because they're going through so much more than what you have the opportunity to handle. Man, like that was hard. Like those were those crying moments. Those were those times where that it wasn't about content, right? It was about the kid, right? Like you take things personal, right? Like you have this awesome lesson that's playing, and every kid's like, I couldn't do my homework because I didn't understand it. You're like, wait, what? I just did X's and O's on the board. Like, did you not, like just that, like not taking those things personal and being flexible with it, because you're just so rigid, right? Like you're just so like, I got to get this done and I got to do this and this has to happen and my job's on the line. To really understanding that, you know what, it's going to be okay, right? Like it's going to be okay. It's going to be great. Connecting with your kids, getting the kids to come in and to learn their passion. But yeah, like that, the hardest realization for me was, and honestly, that's another thing Mr. Stewart told me, like, and I would have never believed it would come out of her mouth, but it was just like, you try to save them all, but just realize, like, there are just some kids that are going through things that you just can't physically do and handle. And so you have to be able to prepare with resources to be able to give them. But like, just know, like, there's going to be some sleepless nights and there's going to be some things that you can't handle. So
do you feel like I love that line that, you can't save them all, but you have to try. Do you feel like is that one of your core principles that you share with your staff?
Absolutely.
Because it's so true.
Normally, it is. Normally, so every new staff I get, I give them a starfish and I give them the starfish story about a kid who's on the beach throwing starfishes in the ocean. Older gentleman comes by and says, what are you doing? He says, I'm saving the starfish. And the gentleman says, well, there's 100,000 miles of beach and there's 100,000 miles of starfish. You won't be able to save them all. And the kid looks back at him and picks up a starfish and said, but I saved that one, right? Sure. And so I truly believe that one person can make a difference in a kid's life, and you never really know which one you're making a difference for, right? Like, so every morning you got to get back and throw some of them back in the ocean and use a slingshot to throw in the ocean. But you should always try. You should always try for that one.
I like it. Okay, so last night I was Google searching Dr. Tron Young, and like below your school website was like this video, this Old Town Road. So if you're out there, like he's got some awesome YouTube videos. Tell me about these music videos. Like you've done one at least each year. It seems like you did another one this year. You look like you're having a ton of fun. The kids you have some kids in them who look like they're
Yeah.
having a ton of fun. Just tell me about the music videos. What inspired you to do this? And just take it from there.
And so, what really has inspired me is the engagement, right? So engaging with kids, where they're being relevant with kids and in their daily lives. I'm a music person, right? Like I like music. Music speaks to my emotions. Music speaks to who I am. I like to think I can sing, but I pretend I can sing. But it started in my classrooms, right? Like changing songs into learning about math, and then making that connection. Even at my old school, when we were doing, it was the Illinois Standardized Achievement Test, the ISAT, and you're going to achieve on the ISAT. You got right, like, and just making these songs, and the kids love it, and it's their passion, and really connecting with the kids, and showing them that my teachers and them, right? Relationships, relevance, results. I have all my key things, right? Like my teacher say, you got a phrase for it. You absolutely do, right? I believe that if you're relevant and you build the relationships, then you get those results. So part of it is breaking that barrier, that image of who I am as a principal, right? Like growing up, principals was like this guy walking down the hall, stern face. You only connected with that guy if you were in trouble, and you didn't want to do that, right? To really being relevant and being open, right? Like landing kids, like this is who I am, this is who our school is, and changing that narrative, right? Like I needed the narrative to be what we can do and what is possible, and not what you can't do. And so if I'm asking my teachers to think outside the box, I have to continue to think outside the box. And it makes my students excited about the new school year. I do it to kick off a new school year. And I tell my staff, I want our new school year to be like the opening of baseball, right? So in O'Fallon, we're close to St. Louis. We are Cardinals fans. And opening day is big, right? Like, there's going to be one or two personal days that staff take for opening day or the day after opening day and all this other good stuff. I'm like, I want our kids to have an opening day. I need their opening day to be awesome, right? So I have my music video either come out the day of or the day before of what happened. Now this year with all the virus, it went later. It went a little later. It went about Labor Day weekend, but I had to wait till I can get kids in my building. And every year I try to add something new to it. So this group of kids are like, oh, that wasn't in last year's video, right? Like there's more kids, or there's this, or there's that. And trying to do a relevant song. That's the hardest, because getting older and being relevant in the music that's now, so I get the kids to give me suggestions and rewrite the words to make it relevant to our school. And it's lots of fun. Like the kids just have lots of fun. They talk about it. Like you, if I have a new student that's coming to school, I always like, hey, you haven't heard about us? Go search Joseph Arthur. Go search my name and see what comes up. Gets them excited about our school and the possibility of what they're able to do, right? Like letting the kids know what we are able to do and what is possible.
So you also have, I think I mentioned it earlier, Friday 5.
Yes.
You got some. What's the Friday 5? I enjoyed watching that, a few of those. Why don't you share what that is?
So Friday 5 is 5 minutes with me and a student. So our community can get to know who we are as a school and who my students are. When I came to Joseph Arthur Middle School, I was telling the community, like, hey, I was going out and have my apparel on and introducing people, and they're like, oh, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm principal at Joseph Arthur. And they were like, where's that? And I'm like, here? Well, there's 2 different school districts in O'Fallon. There's a larger district, and then there's our district. And so everyone knew about the larger district, which has 2 middle schools. And then there's my district that they all feed into the same high school. They all have, right? But it was 2 different communities almost. So I needed people to know who we are and who my kids are. Let's tell our story, right? Like, let's really tell our story, and let's get our kids excited about letting people know who they are. So it'll be 5 minutes of kids talking about what we're doing at our school and about themselves, right? And so really, like, the really powerful ones is when I ask the students, like, who's their hero and why. And they get to talk about their parents or their coach or like, and it's just meaningful, right? Like, and so it's just building the entire community, getting them involved in who our school is. So we're telling our story.
Yeah, a couple of the kids that I watched last evening just seemed so like they had so much pride. Like they were so
Yeah.
excited to have it. And I can only imagine how excited they were when they could point at that video and say, look at, look what I did, and showing their friends, their family. And it's a great idea. If you're out there, if you're, you're obviously on your phone or you're on your computer. So you just take Google search really quick, check it out. I think that's a great idea that if you're not musically inclined for the music videos, which that's a big leap of faith, I think you could at least do those Friday fives that Jams is doing. So very cool idea. Another idea that you had, I love all these ideas, man. You're just full of them, is the Get on the Bus tour.
Oh yeah.
And maybe this year was different. It's such a weird year, but maybe share what the Get on the Bus tour has been in the past.
Right. So, and this year was some of the same. It was just individual, but it started just as my building. Now it's a district thing where before we start the school year, I challenged my superintendent and all leaders to rethink how you do a start of the school year. I started the school year as a teacher and dreaded the first day going back because we were sitting as a group, going over all of the new rules, going over all of the new expectations, listening to bloodborne pathogen and like all that stuff. And I'm like,
do that in Illinois
how does
too?
that get you pumped up? Right. I'm like, how does that get you ready to start a new year? Like, how does that get you ready to be excited to get your kids in the classroom in your building, right? Like, let's model what we want our teachers to do in their room. I tell my teachers, I don't want your first day of going, it's not like college where you go over your syllabus and here's, no. Like that, you can get that. That comes. Kids have been doing school for years. So what we do is get our entire district on school buses, and we go to student house as an entire district. We choose 6 kids. They are randomly selected, aka purposely, intentionally motivated to be able to go to. And we diversify, right? So we've been to board member kids, to kids who have truancy problems. We do it all. We ask businesses to donate supplies. We give them a backpack full of supplies, some gift cards to places. And so we all get off the bus and I call in advance so I know that they're there. And we all get off the bus and we knock on the kid's door and I create a little chant, whatever our theme is for the year. We create a little chant, we do a chant, we give them the gift, we tell them we're excited to start the school year. And the goal is for them to know that we see them so their behavior doesn't have to show us that we see them, right? So we see you. We were here for you. We support you. One, getting out in the community, right? I needed my community to know who we are and know what we're about. And so that was part of that goal, right? So we have our videos, we have our Friday Five, we're kicking off. And if we want people to come into our school, we have to be willing to leave our school and come to them. And so we got on the bus and we went to them, and we went from just doing 6 kids to then the past 2 years, we went to 6 kids' houses, and then we selected 3 neighborhoods. And we got balloons from businesses and tied balloons on their mailboxes. And so they knew that their neighborhood was tagged by their school district. And so we tagged different neighborhoods with balloons, and we would do Facebook Live and let them know that we're out, and we wouldn't say what neighborhood we were. So people were like messaging like, come in our neighborhood, I got my kid out of bed. Like, oh my gosh. One girl was like, I have a lemonade stand, so please come by. So we went by the lemonade stand, and it's really awesome. It's really awesome. And this year we transferred where we then gave individual teachers, got to select kids, and our theme was growing together, Central 104, growing stronger together. And so we gave a little cup of paint and a piece of parchment paper and had the kids all put their hands on it and made a tree out of all the hands to represent our district growing together. So it was really awesome. It's really awesome. It's one that, like, at the end of it, the teacher's like, oh, it's hot. Next year we need air conditioning. But then once they have the kids excited, coming to the building, parents coming to open house talking about it, they're like, oh, that was worth it. That was worth it to have the kids now excited to start a new year.
I love that, man. So you obviously, I mean, I talked about it a couple of times, your energy, your enthusiasm. We always, part of the purpose for the show is to give listeners specific, and you've given a handful of ideas already. What is one approach, or how do you build relationships with kids? I have no doubt that you built strong relationships. What is like your mindset, or what is one tip you would give to somebody who is an administrator? How do you build relationships with kids?
Yeah, I would say the most opportune time is those unstructured time in your school that you need to be present. So in the mornings, after school, at lunch, and talking to kids, right? Like those are those opportunities that we often take for granted, but that are so crucial to the kids seeing you, right? Like you being present. So in the morning, being present, after school, during lunchtime, and talking to kids, like not just being that face, but being that opportunity. And then I have intentional moments where I intentionally connect with kids. I learned this from one of my teachers, and she was calling her classroom her friends. All right, friends, we're moving on to the next one. Okay, friends. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Because that's a different way for kids to see you, right? Like there's that authority power, right? That is there, but removing that wall, right? So I'm saying, good morning, friend. How you doing, friends? Oh, you're gonna be my best friend today. Your behavior's gonna be good. Like having that kind of conversation, change that relationship to being intentional, where then I intentionally, a couple times a week, pull kids in and I just talk to them in my office, right? Like, hey, tell me how's it going, right? Like, what's going on with classes? How's it going at home? Are you playing any sports outside? Like, just having those intentional conversation moments, which is open up. And it may not even be the kid that I have talked to, that when a kid's going through, they're asking to talk to me, right? And my teachers were very confused at first. Confused and probably frustrated because a lot of the behavior issues became, instead of consequences, having peer mediation facilitated by me, because the kid would come and talk to me about an issue before it became an altercation, right? So they would talk to me about it, and I would get kids in and have that discussion. But because of the relationships that I built with my kids, they would be like, oh, Dr. Young doesn't play that. Well, he's going to have me in his office. You guys going to have to talk about that one. And I'm like, yes, they know. We talk about the issue. We don't fight about the issue, right? Like just building that culture of relationships and that connection of being present and talking with your kids. You will be amazed at how that sets a tone for your staff, for your school, for your families, because the kids are there talking about that, right? So what does kids go home and talk about? They talk about their day in that moment, right? So if they go home and they have that moment where they're like, oh, Dr. Young called me down to the office. Or what'd you do? Oh, nothing. He was just asking me about how class is going and what my favorite subject was. What? He takes time to do that? Yes, I have 1,000,002 other things that's on a paper list to do that is going to be there no matter if I talk to that kid or if I don't. So take that time to make an impact and build relationships.
Sure. Love that. So, okay. So last year you were named the 2020 Illinois Middle School Principal of the Year. Just maybe describe that process and maybe describe how things have changed since you won that award.
So I tell you, so the initial one was through our Illinois Principal Association. Each region awards a high school, middle school, elementary principal, and then that individual has the opportunity to apply for the state level award. So apply for the state level award is a list of questions that goes along with our school leader paradigm and making sure that you are fulfilling those roles of that. And so I applied. I'll be honest, I applied not thinking I was going to win, right? Like, so across the state of Illinois, I think I will be named Middle School Principal of the Year. Not in a million years did I think that, right? Like that thing will be awesome, and it will really be something that my school can be proud of, and we as a community, because getting this award is not necessarily about me. It's about my ability and allowing me to be the leader that I am, to help support them and what they're doing as well, right? And so it's just like, man, this is great. And so last February, my school had a surprise assembly. We were actually having a Black History Month assembly that day. And I was home that morning because my little guy was sick. And so I took a half day in the morning, and my wife was taking a half day in the afternoon. And so I get there, and we have an admin meeting that I can't even remember what we were talking about like now I know it was a setup, right? Like, so we had a meeting, and my PE teacher comes in and was like, hey, I'm trying to get the mic set up for the speaker, and it's just not working. Can you come and help us real quick? It's like, yeah. And I come in, and man, my entire school was there. I do bow tie Tuesdays. So I have a bow tie on today.
Yes.
Because I was talking with the kid and I had to throw a tie on real quick because I'm working from home. But I normally wear a bow tie just on Tuesdays, and I do bow tie Tuesdays, right? And so kids who wear bow ties with me, I'll like either do a drawing for pizza or, kid, like I do different things to make it an event, right? So here's another thing to connect with Dr. Young, right? Like I wear bow tie Tuesday, and then I throw out bow tie Tuesday tips is what I call it. So on Tuesdays, we do bow tie Tuesdays with a bow tie Tuesday tip on the announcements. And so all the kids had on bow ties, my teachers had on bow ties, and then I see all my family there, my wife, my mother, Mrs. Truitt, some of my other principal friends, and they had this big assembly for me, and I just break down in tears, right? Like it was just one of those moments like, oh my goodness, like, is this really happening? And like they had the news camera there, and what was really great is like I told my teachers, I was like, listen, we have a 5-year goal. Guarantee in these 5 years, like we're gonna have some amazing things happen where the news is gonna be there. We're gonna find out about our school and what we're doing that makes it great. And just like seeing this, like things that are happening in the moment, it was a speechless moment. And as you can tell, I'm not normally speechless. So
Yeah.
tears in speech.
Wow.
And so since then, like I've always considered myself a motivator, right? And try to do some motivation and do those things. But since then, it's actually been a little weird and different. I'm like, is this how it's supposed to feel? Because the state of Illinois, they get to nominate either the high school or the middle school principal for the national principal of the year. I was nominated for the national principal of the year, which is amazing to me, right? Like thinking the state of Illinois, like how many times does that happen to a principal, and what are the chances of it, and being just a finalist, right? So I wasn't the national principal of the year, and I'm okay with that, just to be in the company of those individuals, some awesome people. So we have meetings every so often, and I'm just taking notes, right, and learning from other people. Sure. That's going there. But 2 weeks after I got announced the award, we shut down for quarantine for everything. And that went through the summer. Then we had our school year, and it's been a whirlwind. So even like the big state convention that we were supposed to have for a principal association to give out the awards, it was supposed to happen in October. It didn't. Now we're doing it in February as an online virtual event. So it's been a whirlwind, right? Like, so it's given some recognition to my school, definitely, which has been awesome to happen. And then I tapped into awesome people like you, right? And able to talk with them and learn from them and get tapped into all of the people that they're either liking or following and growing, and just continue to grow my professional network and learning from other people. That's been the biggest thing, is this open up opportunities for me to get to learn nationally people and to grow nationally with what other people are doing, even in a time where, everything is so weird and so crazy. And I'm like, man, if my school is the only school that's having kids not turning in work, like what's going on? And man, I've been made so many home visits, and these kids they're showing up, but they're not doing the work. Like, what's going on? And then talking to people, and it's like, okay, yep, it's happening in California. They're struggling with Texas. They're doing it. Okay, all right. Well, I'm not okay with it, but I understand that it is just where the kids are at right now. And so trying to find ways to keep them motivated, keep yourself motivated, keeping your staff motivated, it's all new. It's all new. So that's been the biggest change for me.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, man, same here in Iowa too. We're all talking about it. How do we get these kids doing their work when they're at home? So,
right.
So you've mentioned it a couple times. For those of you watching the YouTube video here, you've got the IPA, the Illinois Principal Association shirt on there. You've actually served, or I think you're currently serving as the diversity chair. Is that correct?
So I was the diversity chair for my region. So the state has broke us up into different regions. So I was our regional diversity chair. Okay. I'm actually now the director-elect for our region. So be the regional director there for a while. But I had to learn from somebody for a couple of years. So I told them,
You are a busy guy, man.
Man, I try to keep my plate not too full on there, but I also try to continue, like I said, that network and that growing, right? So I believe like to continue to grow and to develop yourself, because that's how you stay fresh as a leader. And like I said, learning new things. My best ideas I've learned have been from other people and making it something that works for our building. So
Sure. Well, I want to talk about diversity for a second. It's such a big topic right now. You seem like you're just a great role model, whether it's in your school, whether it's on as part of IPA, how have you just really embraced that role and been a role model in terms of the diversity in that role as a school leader?
right. So I think it's crucial. I think it's important because the look of our schools are changing. But the look of educators is not changing. I would honestly say that it's probably getting worse than it's getting better, just because the plight of education and the lack of just the understanding of what this job is, right? Like, people don't understand the impact. People don't understand what you do as an educator, and everybody believes that they can be an educator because they all been a student.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that it's completely different through that. But that diversity piece is crucial, because I believe that we have to have that diversity to see those different lenses to be able to reach all of our kids. And I think that's what diversity gives you, right? It gives you a different lens to be able to view from, because otherwise we're always viewing out of our lens and wondering what other people are seeing and what other people are talking about. If we don't have that diversity, if we don't have that equity, if we don't have that inclusion there. And so part of my role with the diversity chair was we are a very diverse region, but making sure people feel their voices heard. And I also believe that just by being in the room, the conversation has to change. Right. So not only as a minority, right? So as a minority, as a male, as someone in Illinois, right? So me being in a room and being in Southern Illinois, it's completely different conversation than having Chicago, right? Like, it's just two different parts of the state, two different things happen. Like Chicago, I always joke like they're a state on their own. And then it's like, oh yeah, and the rest of Illinois. So like even our legislation, it's like, oh yeah, so this is what we're going to do for educators, but Chicago public school system gets to do this. And so, but being in the room, you have to shift that conversation, right? And so I think it's so important for your leadership, for us as leaders, to have diversity on our staff, whether it's gender-based, whether it's racially based, whether it's sexuality based, whatever. Like, you have to understand those different viewpoints to be able to really understand the kids that you're teaching, because we have a lens, right? Like, I can't look at things from a lens of a white male, right? I can't look at it from a lens of a Black female. I can look at it from my lens that I have, right? Which is different. But your lens, my lens, a female lens, right? Adding those thoughts together is beautiful, right? Like, you just get so much more out of what you can do, especially in this field of education, right? In this field of education, we get so linear at times with what we have done and what has happened, the curriculum that we have taught, that sometimes getting that diversified thought, that diversified perspective in there, it completely changes the game, right? So those game changer moments. And I think it happens when you have that diversity piece included in there. So being present, being part of it is also why I'm involved. I would say I get active and involved in things. And sometimes my wife is like, hey, slow down. I know you want to be a world changer, but you also have a family and kid, and I'm so much better now. Like, she's definitely has taught me balance, work-life balance, in that game changer. But yeah, so I believe diversity helps you look at a lens that you don't have of your own.
Okay. Let's talk about your wife for a second here. How did you guys meet? You guys were an hour apart. Like, how did that all come about?
I mean, it's a long and short story. The short story is, so she's originally from my hometown, but there is 6 years difference between the two of us, and I actually taught her brother and coached her sister in basketball. And then her mom started teaching in my building as well.
Okay.
And mother liked me, talked to daughter about me. I kind of mentored and coached her brother. He kind of talked to me about her, and like that's how that connection formed. And we went on a date in November 26, 2011, and it's been all uphill since then.
So did you drive to her? Did she drive to you? Did you guys meet halfway on that first date?
Actually, so her parents, like I said, her parents lived in Centralia.
Oh yeah.
So she actually was in Centralia, and I was living there at the time. Sure. So that's how it was. And then she was living in St. Louis, and so during the dating, of course, it was that back and forth kind of deal. But that's the long and short end of it. I had the mother's blessing going in. I had to work on father. I had to work on her dad.
Oh yeah,
her dad to trust me. But
well, having the mom's blessing. Like you're in pretty good if you got mom.
Right.
Mom's got given the okay. So. Okay, one last question before we flip over to some personal growth questions. What advice, we've got a lot of aspiring administrators or new administrators who listen to the show. What one piece of advice do you have for aspiring administrators?
One piece of advice for aspiring administrators is it's a marathon and not a sprint. So my piece of advice, the principalship, school leadership, it's a marathon and not a sprint. That shift from moving from the classroom to administration is difficult. It's difficult because in the classroom, you get short victories, right? You get a kid getting a good grade on the test, you finish a lesson and you can feel good about it, finish a chapter test. No, those are short. But in leadership, it's the long game that you're working towards. So it's a marathon and not a sprint. Stick with the marathon and I guarantee you'll be happy with the results, but know that those long-term goals is what gets you. Those short-term victories, sometimes those fires seem so heavy and you lose that vision, but remember, keep with the marathon. It's a marathon and not a sprint. That's my advice.
I like it, man. Hey, you're giving some great answers here. I wish I could spend 3 hours with you here going over. There's something like, I want to ask more about this. I want to ask more about that. But if you're joining us late, we're with Dr. Tron Young, middle school principal at Joseph Arthur Middle School, better known as JAMS, and they're in O'Fallon, Illinois, which is just to the east of St. Louis there. And that actually brings me to my first question I always ask on the personal growth side. It's really not a personal growth question, but it's just kind of like, okay, if we're in the O'Fallon area, and it's like I said, just outside St. Louis. I'm looking at a map right now. It looks like if you're coming from, when we drive, like I just drove to Nashville, I guess it was 2 summers ago, but I don't know if you kind of go around the outside of St. Louis there. And I don't know if we go, 55. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of, that's just a huge intersection there where if you're going to St. Louis or if you're going to Louisville, if you're going to Nashville, you're going through that area. So what's one place in O'Fallon you just got to check out if you're passing through?
Man, a place in O'Fallon. So being a migrant to O'Fallon, I would say I wouldn't say O'Fallon, I would say the St. Louis area.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, sure.
When I think of St. Louis, O'Fallon, I don't know if there's any huge landmarks for O'Fallon, but the St. Louis area that we look at, I always tell people they're visiting here, a couple of things they have to do, go to the zoo. It's free and it's awesome. Most cities, you have to pay to get in their zoo. Our zoo is free and it's a wonderful experience there. There are some historical landmarks, but I think the one thing I would say do is hit the zoo. Like it's great. Like any time of the year, they have the holiday lights, they have the boo at the zoo, they have all the summer things they can do. So that's what I would say.
So I gotta ask this. People always want to know. I mean, there's some great food in St. Louis. Great food.
There is.
Is there one? Can you narrow it down to one restaurant that
Ooh.
you've got to check out if you're in the area?
Oh, you you're this one man. You know how to get people to. Okay, so if I would say one, I would say Pappy's Barbecue. I'm a barbecue fan.
Okay.
Pappy's Barbecue is up there. It's good.
Okay, so Pappy's, I'm writing that down. I'm always,
Yeah.
I've been to St. Louis Cardinals games. I've been the Arch. I've done all the touristy things. So I'm gonna write that down. I might have to check that out next time I'm down.
Yes,
there.
you
So,
should. You should.
okay, next question. What is one up to $50 purchase you've made in the last year that has made life easier?
Whew. One up to $50 purchase that I've made that have made life easier. I would have to say my air fryer.
That's did you listen to our last show? You probably didn't.
I didn't know.
She said air fry last week. She said air fryer. Exact thing. Stacy Monette, if you're out there listening, she's the middle school principal of the year in Massachusetts. Maybe you guys are long lost relatives.
There you go, right?
So tell us about the air fryer. What makes it so great? Why do people got to go out and get it?
So here it is. Because I was a naysayer. I would not lie. I was a naysayer, and I don't even do a lot of fried food anymore. We do a lot of baked food, and this, that, and the other. But I'm a fan of chicken wings, right? Like I love chicken wings. And so I did some chicken wings in the air fryer, and they were crisp, they were moist, they were delicious. I mean, and it was half the time. And so it's all about time. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So if I can get some things in there, it takes half the time and still have family time. It's healthier. It's all around good. The downside I would say is that it takes some counter space. But it's worth it. It's worth it.
So do you know, I'm going to put you on the spot again, because this is too good. Like, do you know what was in your, because that sounds amazing. That getting those crisp is so hard to do.
Exactly.
Getting those,
it is.
Can you remember what that recipe or what the trick is? I know there's not much of a trick to an air fryer, but do you remember what the recipe was?
So I don't, right? So
yeah.
For the recipe, I tell you what, I did some Emeril's chicken rub, right? I did some Emeril's chicken rub, which is a nice, just general seasoning on them. But I think the trick was, and that I read, was patting them dry before I put them in there. So taking the moisture off of the outside of them, which helps the skin crisp. So yeah, I don't know. They were. I like to cook. I really do like to cook. And so trying to find new recipes and all that is what I like to do. So now it's been finding air fryer recipes.
That's crazy. I'm gonna tag when I post this, I'm gonna tag Stacy on this.
Right?
I'm gonna have you two talk some air fryer recipes there, because that is so ironic. Okay. What is one book that has greatly influenced your life?
Ooh, one book that has, one book that has greatly influenced my life. Well, my initial thought is the Bible. Is definitely a source for me.
Yeah.
And I think if I would, and my mind is so on the leadership. So when I think of right now, the book that like really shifted me was the Jim Collins Good to Great.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was one that just, I never thought I was satisfied, right? But then reading that was like, okay, no, like we have greatness, right? Like that was good, but we could be great. And just talking about what that looks like and using different analogies, like it was good. So that I think that one as a leader definitely shifted my thought, right? My thought process.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, two great answers there. Appreciate you sharing that. Okay. Next one, I started this last week. I want to see
Okay.
how this goes. Now can't remember what Stacy said. No, I can. I want to, if you say the same thing, I'm just gonna drop the mic and be done here.
Let me do it.
Okay. What is one phone app that has positively impacted your life?
One phone app that has positively impacted my life. Phone app that has positively impacted my life. Tell you, I live by my Google Calendar. My Google Calendar is
Absolutely.
it's yeah. I would say definitely probably my Google Calendar.
Now, do you have a secretary that kind of works with you on that, or is that all pretty much you putting
It's
stuff in
all
there?
me. She has access to my calendar, but it's all me. It's all
Sure.
me.
Anything else with the Google Calendar? Maybe something that most people don't put in their calendar that you have found to be helpful?
So what I have done is, and I started this last year and I kept it, is that I made an appointment calendar that I put out, and for my students, our parents could select between, I put 9 to 3. They could select a 20-minute session to have a meeting with me. So I put that out there. So I have a calendar where they can go up and sign up for a meeting with me. So they don't have to wait, right? Like if you want a meeting with me, here's the days I'm available, go up and you can go. And that's been really nice, like putting that appointment calendar out there. Definitely beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, I was having lots of meetings, lots of times with parents, with kids, even new parents. I give that to them. They're like, hey, as you're going through this, there's a question, I'm available. Here's my calendar, schedule a meeting with me. And so that's just another way of having that open door with my students and my parents.
How do you, I haven't, that's a really cool idea. How do you, is there something outside of Google Calendar that you use to have them set up? Is there another program you use, or?
No. So it's right there on Google. When you're setting an event, you can choose it for it to be appointments, and that gives you slots. You can put the amount of time that you want the appointment slot, like the duration of it, right? So I started with 9 to noon, and they were 20-minute appointments that they could go in and pop in, and it pre-populates. It sends you an email of who it is and the time. They can even put like what they want to meet about in the box. So it's really good.
Awesome, man. I like that a lot. I really do. Okay, I'm doing a brand new question this week.
Okay.
And last week I tried one and I didn't like how it came out, so I changed it up. What is your go-to item when you stop at a convenience store?
My go-to item when I stop at the convenience store. Well, it depends on if I'm going on a road trip or if it's just a regular stop.
Oh man.
If it's a road trip, I'm
Yep.
picking up sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. Okay. Any sort of
Yes, so
flavor,
if it's a road trip, I'm picking up.
any sort of
I
special
like the
flavor?
sweet and spicy. Yeah, there's a sweet and spicy out there that I like. That or barbecue or my two. And I felt like on a long road trip, it just, as I'm eating seeds, it keeps my brain moving. And sometimes it keeps me from thinking about work or thinking about something, right? Like, so it's just another activity. I'm not a big gum person. So sunflower seeds is one thing that I have. And then just in general, if I'm going to pick up one thing from the convenience store, be Twizzlers.
Okay. So
Twizzlers.
what is the big convenience store gas station down in your neck of the woods?
So the big convenience store, I would say, is probably Motomart.
What is it called?
Motomart.
Moto Mart. Okay. I don't know if I've heard of that before.
Ones. Yeah, they're the larger ones. We have we have BPs and we have Shells, but like the large, like multiple big trucks and like all the Motomart would be. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, man. I always it's always fun like learning what the different
oh yeah, absolutely
are and different places are. Can you I'm curious on this because you've really you've really went up the ladder really quickly and been really successful. can you recall a job you applied for but did not get? And did you learn
I
anything from?
can.
Okay, and what did you learn from that experience?
So I think what I learned is not everyone is ready for change. It's really the big thing I learned. I was excited about the opportunity that I applied for and thought I was qualified for it, right? And so my reasoning that I really got was I was too touchy-feely about relationships. So, and it was an assistant role, right? And so, okay, well, you're right. If you're looking for somebody who just come and be mean, like that's not me, right? Because I think you get kids to be able to work based off of the connection and not based off of the fear, right? Like, because if fear is there, they're only going to do what they not going to do as long as that fear is there. But once that's removed, they're just going to do whatever they want, right? So as long as the consequence is there, they're there. But if not, but having that relationship and not wanting to disappoint someone or wanting to make somebody proud, right? Like that's a different emotional tactic that allows for kids to invest in schooling and to do something. So yeah, that it was a sting. It hurt, right? Like it took everything that I thought and like I felt like I was doing good. And like at that time I had gotten the Illinois Bob Hazeman Teacher of the Year Award through IEA. And it was like, so I was riding a high. It was like, I don't know if I want to, but then I was making that decision, right? If I want to be a principal, and I got that one, then I was like, well, fine. I'm not supposed to be a principal anyway. I'm going to do what I need to do. You don't want to be touchy-feely. I'm going to make a difference in the kids' lives in my classroom. And they were feeding it to our high school. And so it was just like, it was a moment. It was definitely a moment that I had that I was like, what? Can't believe this is the reason, that's the reason. But no, it's because, they say I'm too touchy-feely, and I just felt like I wasn't part of the good old guys and the good old boys. And so
I
didn't get it. But
yeah. God, I appreciate you sharing that. I've written a couple blog posts about not getting jobs, and it really resonates. It's never easy to share some of those stories, but when you know that like people who are
right,
doing great things, like the teacher of the year in the state of Illinois, the principal of the year in the state of Illinois, even he didn't get somehow some committee thought that he wasn't the right fit. Like it just makes people feel okay. Like it's not
right.
just me.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
you're
I'm mentoring like a couple of people now. Sorry, no, I was just saying I'm mentoring a couple of other administrators now, and like they're getting some feedback, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, let me tell you the feedback I got in my second year as a principal. Like, it's okay, right? Like, you want to grow, right? Like, people often want to just hear all the rosy things, but like, you don't grow with just roses, right? You need some pruning. You need some things cut off of you to help you grow even more. And so, pruning's supposed to hurt a little bit, I guess, right?
That's awesome. All right. You're highly successful. You get a lot done. What's one tip? You've talked about the calendar. What's another tip you've got for being so productive?
Man, I tell you what, I would say make the most of the time you have, right? So I did a couple of different things, but I schedule time outside of my office. So I schedule at least 3 times during the day out of my office that I know I'm going to get out, because I feel like that rejuvenates me, right? So once I get out and I'm out there, I'm like, okay, then I can go back and refocus on. I know that, hey, I have this amount of time that I focus on because I want to go out and go be in a classroom, go connect with kids. And so part of it is making the most of your time, right? And so, and prioritizing your day is kind of what I want to get done for that day. So that helps me, right? So if something else comes, right? Because you get 1,000 emails a day that may try to take a priority, but I'm looking and be like, okay, how much time? So
Okay, great. Hey, what is one big goal you're working on right now? And that you can go any direction you want, personal, professional.
Right, right. So I would say one big goal that I'm working on, I would go personal, right? So one, it's actually personal and professional, but it is to continue to try to inspire people in leadership and education. I believe, right? So be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Be the one who sets the temperature of the building and not just read it. And so my goal is trying to help others understand that and to continue to make a positive impact in their schools. I think this thing of education, I think is getting a better light, right? Now that people are having to understand what they're doing. But one of it is to continue to do that. So whether it's doing some speaking, doing some training just to help other people step out of that mold and just experience what is possible, right? So like take everything you've already done, that's good. Now let's look at what is possible, right? So if no wasn't an answer, if money wasn't a problem, like what would you do? All right. So if you have that, now where you are and what do you need to do in the middle to get there, right? And so that's my goal, right? Like if every school can be that opening day and that exciting and kids are loving to come in and loving to learn, and I just help one person do that, I feel like we've done something. We're making a difference.
This was a really fun interview. It flew by. Is there anything we didn't cover that you were hoping that we would talk about?
No, I don't think so. It's been fun. I've enjoyed this discussion. I appreciate you having me.
Well, good. I appreciate it. And again, I've really enjoyed all of my previous episodes, and everyone they all have, their highlights, but this just like, I mean, you made it so easy. You're just easygoing. You've got great ideas. You're high energy. I just totally understand why you're getting the awards that you have. And I can see why staff just love working in your building and why kids love being in your building as well. So where, if people, and again, I don't know how they couldn't be impressed listening to you, if they wanted to pick your brain a little bit further, how would you recommend they get a hold of you?
I would say get on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. I learn and connect so much with people at Twitter. You can reach me at Tron, the number 2, teach, the number 4, you. Tron to teach for you on Twitter. Reach out to me on there. That would be great to connect on there, and then find other individuals to follow and to see what's happening, right? So sometimes we feel like we're on the island, but that allows us to see other people's islands as well. So I like it.
Well, hey, Dr. Young, I'm going to let you go. You've got 2 young kids that are probably wanting their dad right now. Your wife's probably wanting to use that air fryer for some food tonight. Right. So you better get down there and get working on it. So, hey, man, have a good night. Again, this was episode number 46. Dr. Tron Young, the middle school principal at Joseph Arthur Middle School in O'Fallon, Illinois, the 2020 Illinois Middle School Principal of the Year. Thank you so much. Keep doing great things, and hopefully you guys are back. Hopefully you get the kids back here in the next week or so.
Right. That's the hope. Yes.
All right, man. Well, hey, stay healthy, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.